bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Welcome to today's show. Guys, we have a very special treat for you because the Lakers have just beat the Houston Rockets in an amazing game. I've got Hannah Kulik here with me to talk all about it. But before we get to that, I should mention that, as always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com. Now, today's show is brought to you by MeUndies. Go check out MeUndies.com/LakersNation. You can get 20% off your first pair of some of the most comfortable underwear ever. They really are phenomenal stuff. Go check them out. And while you're at it, don't forget, guys, go to our iTunes page and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to this show. If you want to leave us a question to discuss on the air, make sure you just leave it in the review. A 5-star rating, leave a review. We'll make sure that we talk about it. Well, Hannah, big win for the Lakers. They took out the Houston Rockets. But before we even get into all that, we know there's a certain holiday coming up, right? Christmas is right around the corner. In fact, this is our last episode before Christmas. We're not going to record a show for Christmas because I have a feeling not very many people are going to be listening on Christmas Day. So with that being the case, I want to get in the holiday spirit a little bit. I've got my Lakers Santa hat that I think I just got to wear. If you are listening to the audio version of this show, you're missing it. You may want to go head over to the Lakers Nation YouTube channel and check this out.
Trevor, I am extremely jealous of your hat. I just have a regular, boring Santa hat. It does say my name on it, but I would kill to have a Lakers hat. You definitely win the Santa hat battle so far.
Well, it wouldn't be Christmas without a Lakers Santa hat. It sits in my closet all year, but I finally get to wear it. So I'm excited. I'm going to wear it for this show. You've got your Santa hat. I think we are feeling festive and ready to go. So, Hannah, the Lakers picked up a giant win over the Houston Rockets. I know that, unfortunately, you were not able to watch it. You were spending time with family. Shame on you.
Yes, I know. You know, I was getting all the tweets, and I kept getting yelled at for looking at my phone at the table, but it was worth it. The Lakers beating the Houston Rockets. Kyle Kuzma having a new career high, 38 points. The Lakers starting 3 rookies just in general was exciting for me. So it was a great game. I'm always excited the Lakers are able to win. And for some reason, I always really like when they are able to beat Houston. I'm always a little salty towards Houston for some reason.
Well, after they stole Dwight Howard, which ended up not being a bad thing for the Lakers, but after they stole Dwight Howard, there's been that little bit of animosity the Lakers fans have felt towards the Houston Rockets. Of course, James Harden and his floppy ways don't help anything much.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that the Lakers had 3 rookies in the starting lineup. I talked about this a little bit on Twitter. Incredible. I mean, the Lakers had Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, because KCP is not able to travel out of the state right now. And then they had Kyle Kuzma, who slid into the starting lineup. And maybe we should talk about that for a second. The starting 5. This was a big topic of discussion before the game. Who was going to slide into the starting lineup for Brook Lopez? And it turned out it wasn't just one person. It was actually 2 people. We saw Andrew Bogut and Kyle Kuzma slide into the starting lineup. Brook Lopez unavailable due to injury. He's got that right ankle sprain. He's out for at least 3 weeks. And Kuzma took Nance's spot at power forward. What do you think about that move?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, Luke Walton completely kind of shook up the whole starting lineup. But you know what? It ended up working. They got off to a great start. I think you said that they hit like 3 3-pointers to start the game off. So they got off to a good start. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how he moves forward, seeing how successful this new starting lineup was.
Yeah, I think the idea was to try to replace Brook Lopez's floor spacing by throwing in Kuzma into the starting 5 because obviously Larry Nance Jr. isn't an outside shooter. Andrew Bogut isn't an outside shooter. Now, a lot of people were not too pleased from the reaction that I saw on basketball Twitter that Andrew Bogut was getting those minutes. But from Luke's comments after the game, we know that Bogut was never intended to play that many minutes. It was kind of like a Golden State Warriors-esque situation where they start a traditional center, but they're going to spend most of the game playing small ball, playing with a smaller guy at the true center spot. Bogut ended up getting more minutes in the game against the Rockets because he was very, very good. Whenever Nene was in there, Bogut was slotted in. But still, Walton's idea is to basically mimic the Warriors and start with a more traditional center, but then quickly sub him out and go to that small ball style that everybody's used to. So pump the brakes, everybody. Put down the torches and pitchforks. It's going to be okay, even if Bogut is in that starting lineup. Yes, I would love to see Ivica Zubac too. I'm sure he would love to be out there. I know a lot of people were calling for Thomas Bryant. But right now, Luke's going with Bogut. And you know what? We can't be too upset because, I mean, hey, they just beat the Rockets. The Rockets were on a 14-game win streak. Chris Paul got his first loss of the NBA season. So all good things to celebrate here. Hannah, the one thing that is kind of standing out in this game, aside, we'll get to the positives in just a minute, but the negative, Julius Randle only played 8 minutes.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
He's not going to be too happy about that, I don't think. Yeah, no, I mean, I was even listening to John Ireland on the way home, and they were saying he's just not too happy, which you could obviously expect from a guy like Julius Randle playing fewer than 10 minutes. It's not an ideal situation for him. But you know what Luke just said? Luke wants to go with the guys right now who are playing well, and for some reason, you know, he really liked, obviously Kuzma was killing it tonight, so he wanted to stick with the guys who were on fire. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Luke even admitted after the game, he said Randle has been playing great, and so he understands why he would be frustrated. But, you know, Randle in his stint in the first half, he wasn't all that great. He struggled a little bit, and then the other guys just had it going, and so Luke went with them. And that's not just a Julius Randle thing. I think it's important that we remember that. We've seen Lonzo Ball benched in the fourth quarter, even in games where he was playing well because Jordan Clarkson happened to be playing better in that game. Right, we've seen Larry Nance Jr., we've seen Brook Lopez, we've seen a number of guys get benched in crunch time because it's not going with the flow. Luke's going with the hot hand, and at least he's being consistent with it so we can understand that. I would not be surprised if next game Julius Randle plays a lot of minutes. I think that was the plan going in, that Bogut would play extremely limited minutes and Randle was going to get most of those minutes at center. Bogut ended up doing a pretty good job in there. He was really helping on the boards. And so Walton stuck with him. And you know what? You can't argue because, well, the results speak for themselves, right? I mean, he got the win and that's what matters.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, obviously it's very frustrating for Julius, but at the end of the day, I want to win. And however we're going to be able to do that it's fine with me.
So your guy, Kyle Kuzma, kind of went nuts in this game. I mean,
yes.
Well, you go ahead. Tell us what was his stat line, because I'm sure you're going to get way more joy out of saying this than I would.
Okay, cool. Kyle Kuzma tonight obviously had 38 points. He made 7 3-pointers, which is very impressive. He, of course, got the start. And the thing with me and Kyle Kuzma, it's like, everyone's always, you know, saying, oh my gosh, you know, Kyle Kuzma, 38 points, I'm shocked, whatever. I'm not shocked. Has there ever been a game where he hasn't gotten, if he's played more than 30 minutes, has he ever had a game where he hasn't scored at least 20 points, if he's gotten at least 30 minutes? I don't think there has been. And if there has, it's only been one. And something crazy was going on that night. So if Kuzma gets the minutes, he's going to get the points. So I mean, I know I keep saying it. I feel like I'm just like on repeat, but I love Kyle Kuzma. I'm just keep getting more and more impressed with him each game. He's really, really proving to be, I mean, obviously the steal of the draft, but he's just proving to be a very good player.
It has indeed happened a few times where Kuzma has not hit 20 points, even though he played 30 minutes, but
very rarely, though.
I mean, the point still stands that the guy can put the ball in the basket. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, he is phenomenal at doing that. The defense is a little bit of a work in progress, but my goodness, he was red hot. He really got the Lakers going in the first half against the Rockets, got their confidence up, and it seems like Kuzma was basically making a statement like, hey, don't pull me out of the starting lineup again. I mean, remember, he started for part of the season, and now he is back in there in the starting lineup. Luke Walton said he was still going to tinker with lineups a little bit. He might play with some things here and there. Well, Kuzma just made a statement like, hey, you better be starting me the rest of the way out. So I'd be surprised if after this performance, Kuzma doesn't get at least a 5 to 10 game stint in that starting power forward spot after what we just saw, right? I mean, you can't pull Kuzma after this kind of a performance, right?
No, you absolutely cannot pull Kuzma. Kuzma has to start. I think Kuzma has to start regardless, personally. I think he's one of the top 3, I could argue, the best Laker at the moment. I think, in my opinion, the most consistent Laker at the moment. Kuzma has to start, especially during the stint. But I even think when, you know, Lopez and everyone comes back, I think Kuzma should just be in the starting lineup in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he should be the starter at this point. Julius Randle can make a very strong case. Obviously, tonight wasn't his best night, but still, he could make a strong case for that as well. But for right now, yeah, Kyle Kuzma has been the man. And I mean, the 27th overall pick, he's got 3 more years at the 27th pick's salary. And I'm looking that up right now so I can give you guys accurate numbers. I was tweeting about this earlier. Like, how cool is it that the Lakers have, I mean, as bad as Luol Deng's contract is, here it is. Kyle Kuzma, this season's making $1.4 million. Next season, $1.6. His team option for the following season is $1.9. After that, he gets a big jump up to $3.5 million. I mean, we're talking about a team with a salary cap right now at $101 million. So you've got Kyle Kuzma at the height of his deal 3 years from now, really 3.5 years from today. He's going to be making 3.5. He's going to be making 3% of the salary cap, and this guy is that good already. What an incredible find at the 27th overall pick. I'm still just amazed at this guy every single night, and he will go a long way to help the Lakers rebuild.
Oh, yes, for sure. I mean, like we've said a million times, steal of the draft, a total jackpot for the Lakers.
So before we move on, we do have a very, very cool mailbag show to get to. We've got a lot of different questions from fans. A lot of people have written in. We're going to be discussing a ton of different topics. So before we move on to that, though, I want to give a quick shout out to Josh Hart. He had a very nice performance, I thought, dealing with James Harden and the Rockets. Hannah, you brought up that he's been shooting very, very well from 3 in the last few weeks. He was what, 10 for 21?
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah.
Which is great. He's already a fantastic defender. We're going to talk about him a little bit more with one of the questions that gets brought up in our mailbag. I thought he's been a little bit underrated, or not underrated, but underreported how good he's been. And Lonzo Ball's shot blocking. I mean, he had a huge block on James Harden. He made it look, I mean, James Harden had a phenomenal game. Let's not get that wrong here. But Lonzo had a block on him. If you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. James Harden looked like a 6th grader going up against a college player with this ball. It was that kind of block where just the bigger, stronger guy is just standing there waiting for him and then just swats the ball away. So very, very cool to see the way Lonzo Ball is playing defense. It's much, much better than anybody expected, and we saw that in the Houston game. Big win for the Lakers there. So let's go ahead and jump into the mailbag. But first, I do want to talk about MeUndies. MeUndies, awesome company. They've been with us for a little while here as a sponsor, and they have a special Christmas deal here. And here's the deal. Every year, there are a lot of people who get a gift that is the least liked at Christmas time, and that's underwear, right? Your family gives it to you, a friend gives it to you, and you end up getting stuff that you just don't really want. And so it becomes that kind of bummer of a Christmas present. Well, it might not be the fact that you're getting underwear that's the bummer. It's the fact that you're getting the wrong kind of underwear. MeUndies is the kind that actually makes a phenomenal gift. It is the softest underwear ever. It's 3 times softer than cotton, naturally sourced, sustainable fiber that it's made out of, so you can feel good about it, and it just makes a perfect gift. I get a new pair of MeUndies every single month, and I always look forward to getting them because they are exactly as comfortable as they say. They are amazingly comfortable, and it is a holiday miracle when you can get a pair of underwear that fits right and is that comfortable and lasts as long as they do. I absolutely love these things. Definitely recommend you guys go and check them out. And because they partnered with us, you can actually get 20% off of your order, okay, with free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee, so it's a no-brainer. All you got to do is go to MeUndies.com/LakersNation. Again, that's MeUndies.com/LakersNation. Get 20% off, free shipping, and it's an amazing product. Definitely recommend you go check them out. All right, Hannah, let's dive into our mail.
Let's do it.
Why don't you fire off the first question? Let's take a look at it. Let's make sure that we shout out whoever sent it in to us, and we'll jump into this thing.
Okay, and I'm going to apologize if I pronounce your name wrong, but it is Joe Kuane. I think that could be possibly it.
Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, Kuane, something like that. It said, if even one of Paul George and LeBron James comes to LA in the offseason, what positions do they slot in, and what does it mean for Brandon Ingram?
So if Paul George and LeBron James, or even if you get one of them, I guess the question here is because Paul George and LeBron James are mostly small forwards, that's the position that they start at for their teams right now, for the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's also Brandon Ingram's position. And so I get it. There's that concern there. Brandon Ingram was the second overall pick just last year. He has grown by leaps and bounds. We're watching him get better and better and better. And there's that hesitation to replace him with somebody, right? I mean, you don't want to stifle his development or anything because, of course, we have this connection to Ingram, right? We've got something invested in him. So I understand the trepidation of bringing in LeBron or Paul George and moving around Brandon Ingram. I'm not that worried about it, though. And here's why. Because LeBron, given his size and strength and the way the NBA is going, as much as he may love to be a small forward, he's probably going to be spending most of his minutes at power forward, which gives Ingram plenty of opportunity in there. Paul George can play shooting guard. It may not be his best position, but he can play it. So if you look at the shooting guard position, the small forward position, the power forward position, between those three spots, I think you can find plenty of minutes for LeBron, George, and Brandon Ingram. Okay, they may not be spending their entire time specifically at small forward, but the NBA is going positionless anyway. Right? We're seeing teams just throw their 5 best players out on the floor, regardless of position to some extent. So I think that Luke Walton is a smart enough coach, which he's getting better all the time. And I think that the Lakers are smart enough in how they're going to build their team. Rob Pelinka is very aware of the things that they need. And that I think they'll be able to get around any kind of positional logjam with Ingram, even if it means you start Paul George or Ingram at the 2 in order to have all 3 in your starting lineup. I think you make it work if you've got that kind of talent on the floor. Is that kind of where you're at too, Hannah, or are you a little bit concerned about this?
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not concerned at all. I completely agree with you, Trevor. You know, LeBron, obviously, he's mainly a 3, but he can also really play any position. And like you said, you know, right now with the way basketball's going, it's really just kind of put your 5 best players out on the floor. You know, Paul George obviously wants to be the 2, but he can be the 3, and same with Ingram. So, you know, I think if LeBron comes, it doesn't matter. It's LeBron, put him anywhere, and I think he'll be fine. You know, Paul George comes, he'll play probably the 2, and Ingram would, you know, play the 3. But either way, I'm not concerned about it. I think they'll totally be able to find places to put those guys on the court. I'm not concerned at all. I'd be thrilled if we have that problem. If that's the Lakers' biggest problem, how are we going to play LeBron, Paul George, and Ingram? Then I'm fine with that.
Right. I mean, that's a great way to put it. It's an awesome problem to have, right? We have too many talented players. Problem that the Lakers haven't had in recent years. So we'll certainly take that. Let's move on to the next one. We've got looks like at Chase Knight. Looks like that. It says, do you think I'm assuming they mean the Lakers, should trade for Marc Gasol? Interesting question.
Yeah, this is an interesting question because, you know, Marc Gasol is a really good player. I think right now he's averaging like 19 points. 19 points, I actually have it here, and 8.6 rebounds. So those are some really nice stats. But he will be 33 in January, and he's very expensive. So I don't know if the Lakers are necessarily going to want to commit to spending that much money, especially when I think they're going to want to go after DeMarcus Cousins. I don't know if it necessarily makes the most sense. But if he's available, they should definitely consider it. He's a great player, but I don't know if in the long run that's where the Lakers want to go.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm lukewarm about that idea. I don't think it's really a perfect fit. And here's the reason. As you mentioned, his age, his salary is also up there. What would you have to give up to get him? Memphis has been building around him. What are they going to be expecting in return? We're probably looking at young players and picks. If Memphis is dealing him, they're going to want to rebuild. And I don't know if the Lakers really want to part with those things. Plus, if you are trading for Marc Gasol, you are eating up future cap space. So that means that you're probably looking at only getting one of Paul George or LeBron James or whatever. If you even have enough space to do that, it would be really, really difficult. And I don't know that Marc Gasol is the guy that's going to bring other stars to LA. Is LeBron thinking, man, I really got to go to a team where I can team up with Marc Gasol? And that's not to say that Marc Gasol is a bad player, because he's not. He's very good. But I don't think that you bring him, back to the Lakers. Don't forget, he started as a Laker. He never actually played for the Lakers, but he got traded before his rookie season for his brother, Pau Gasol. First time that had happened in NBA history. But yeah, I don't think that he's the piece that you give up a whole lot for. I guess if you could get him for something cheap, then maybe you consider it. But in general, it just doesn't seem like a great fit. Nor are the Lakers a great fit for Marc Gasol, right? Marc Gasol is getting up there in years. He wants to win right now, and that's not the phase the Lakers are in at this point. So I don't think it's a realistic trade to look at. But anyway, if he's cheap enough, maybe. Moving on. You know what? We got two questions here. One was from Chris Cavello, and he said, do you think free agents are still looking closely at us, again meaning the Lakers, even though we're losing games in every one, we just need that one superstar to put us over the edge? And then it looks like Carlos Morrison said, how appealing do you see the Lakers to upcoming free agents? If you were one, what would you do knowing they can give you a max contract and there's a young core with great potential? So you've got two very similar questions. Essentially, both Chris and Carlos are asking, do you think the Lakers are an attractive destination for free agents? And so, Hannah, what do you think?
This is an interesting question because I definitely think that they are on a lot of teams' radar. As we've seen, the Lakers have had, they've played pretty well this season. Their record doesn't really show as well as I think that they've played. I think they could have definitely won a few more games. Every single game, they've been in it. They've been really entertaining. They've really held their own against really great teams. We've seen them take Golden State into overtime now twice. We saw them just beat the Houston Rockets. So I definitely think that they're on other teams' radar. If it's enough to really want to bring stars to the Lakers, I'm not 100% sure. I think that's really going to depend on how they're able to finish this season. They're going to have to be able to, obviously we saw it tonight, but they're going to have to continue to be able to, kind of shake some of these, big teams and beat some of them. And they're going to have to be able to, keep growing and keep, proving that they're able to continue growing and that they're going to be good players. Obviously they're very young, but I think it's just really going to depend on how they progress throughout the season.
What do you think of the Lonzo factor here? Do you think that having Lonzo Ball as the point guard makes them a little bit more attractive to a potential free agent, especially a swingman or a center, a guy who's not a point guard?
Yeah, well, obviously Lonzo definitely, people want to come play with him. When you have a guy like Lonzo, who's such a great point guard and who's really, such a team player, I'm sure it's definitely very attractive for other free agents. But again, these big star players, they want to win. They don't want to, why would they want to come to the Lakers necessarily and play with a team that's not quite ready? Like, why would LeBron James necessarily want to do that unless they're really showing like, hey, if we just add you and maybe one more guy, we'll be ready to go. So it's really going to depend on how the team collectively is able to perform. Because, right now, I don't know if they've necessarily proven enough that would make LeBron James want to be like, oh, let's go to the Lakers because he wants to win championships. These guys that are in their, early mid-30s, they just want to win now. So they're going to have to start winning some more games and, keep progressing.
Right, yeah. Paul George, late 20s, and LeBron James getting into his 30s now, and DeMarcus Cousins, mid-20s as well. But, you look at these guys and you look at what the Lakers have, they're showing some real fight this season. They've been close to beating the Golden State Warriors twice now. They could have beat them at the buzzer in 2 games. They just beat the Houston Rockets, who have been the best team in the league so far. They were playing really, really well against LeBron's Cleveland Cavaliers, and we know that LeBron had that moment afterwards with Lonzo Ball. So, this is a team that you got to feel optimistic about, and that free agents are watching them. They're keeping an eye on them. So I do think that they are an attractive destination. I think the vibe has changed now that Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka are in town. And so I would be surprised if the Lakers went through free agency this summer and didn't get anyone. I don't know that they're going to be able to pull off their full plan, that they're going to get 2 max free agents and all of that. But I think they're going to get somebody. I think that Magic is good enough at selling the Lakers and having that passion for the team, and that Rob Pelinka brings that optimism with him, and that this young core that they've established is attractive. You've got a very pass-first point guard in Lonzo Ball that is going to get you the ball in the right spots and is going to make you look good because you're going to be scoring more thanks to his passes. So I think they're in a good spot. It's going to depend on how the rest of the season plays out. If they get a few more of these, early Christmas miracle wins, right? Like they did against the Houston Rockets, then I think they're going to really turn some heads, especially if they're not in a great spot for this right now. But if they can somehow sneak into that 8th playoff spot, or at least be in the running, that could give them a leg up. I mean, right now, they are 3.5 games back of that last playoff spot, so they're not really in the running for that. But if they improve as the season goes along, can kind of catch up a little bit, finish up a little bit higher in the standings to where they're almost a playoff team, you could get some more guys talking and thinking about them there. So interesting idea, interesting question. Are they a attractive destination? I think so. I think they have to be at this point, and the proof will come this summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next question is from Tony Horn, and he asked, while Kuzma stands out as the team's top scorer, it's Josh Hart who recently showed some flashes of using his starting spot wisely and being a greedy defender. Little bit undersized, but able to defend bigger players. Can he be the team's first stopper if KCP leaves in the summer? I like this question. It's a good question.
I do. I like greedy defender.
Yeah.
I think I use this too much. My go-to is stingy defender, but greedy defender. I like that. That sounds pretty good.
I usually do pesky defender.
Pesky defender. There's another one. Pesky defender. Greedy defender. Greedy defender is really good. I like that. Can he be the first stopper if KCP leaves in the summer? Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking when they drafted Josh Hart, and we first got a look at him and everything. We saw the way that he plays. He's kind of like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope light, right? He's like a mini version of him in some ways. KCP has been, he's been frustrating fans with his shot selection. He seems to be something of a gunner, and he's in a contract year, so that makes some sense. But that was kind of his MO coming out of Detroit too, was that he's a guy who likes to fire away. Sometimes he hits those long bomb threes, but other times he takes questionable shots, like the attempted game winner against the Warriors that did not come up very well. KCP has been a very, very good defender. I've been impressed with him on that end, but I've also been impressed with Josh Hart there, and I think he plays a little bit more under control, and he's steady. They're definitely not the same player, but I think that Josh Hart does enough of the same type of things that KCP does, and he is so much cheaper. I mean, what is he costs like 1/18 or whatever of what KCP. I mean, KCP is making $18 million. Josh Hart's making just over $1 million. So yes, I think that he is a phenomenal cheap replacement. I keep losing my earpiece here. that Josh Hart is a phenomenal cheap replacement for KCP. Should KCP go elsewhere, which I would say is fairly likely at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I definitely think he could be. I still think that we do have to see more. Obviously, we weren't really able to see much from Hart over the summer league and the preseason because he was out with an injury. So he started the season a little bit further behind than the other players, and he didn't really play too many minutes. But ever since he's been getting the minutes, I've been really impressed with him. And, now with KCP not able to travel out of state, it's going to give Hart a big chance to prove himself. So he's going to really kind of have to continue showing what he can do. But I think I really like Hart, and I was excited when the Lakers drafted him just in general. I think, after the 4 years of college, he's a really physically fit guy. He's very tough. He's kind of more mature and NBA ready because of, playing those 4 years in college. So it's definitely possible, but we're just going to have to continue to see how he progresses during the season.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's so far so good, but we'll have to see kind of how things go from here. Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. So let's see here. Next one. I think we can do this one pretty quick here. Who would have to lose a limb / what natural disaster would have to befall LA? I don't think this is a good time to talk about natural disasters in LA right now, with all these fires and everything. For Julius Randle to start at this point, clearly an injury just doesn't cut it, man. So, yeah, right? Yeah. Brook Lopez goes out. A lot of people were thinking that Julius Randle might slide in and be that starting center. Hannah, what do you think? Should Julius Randle keep coming off the bench, or should they toss him into the starting lineup at some point here?
Well, here's the thing with me and Julius. Obviously, I understand he could very easily start for us. But I actually really do like him coming off the bench. And I know that the coaching staff does too, because when he comes off the bench, he's completely able to dominate against other teams' second units. And I don't know if he would necessarily be as effective against teams' starting units. But, I mean, obviously, I can understand why people are frustrated with Julius Randle coming off the bench. I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of difficult. Obviously, the coach and the coaching staff has kind of decided that they'd rather go with Kuzma and Nance over Randle. I don't know necessarily what that means with Randle for the future. But I can definitely understand the frustration there. I do like seeing him in the second unit, though, just because I like seeing Julius be able to dominate against other teams.
Yeah, I mean, he can be a beast in the paint. Julius Randle has had a great season. Statistically, he's been the best center on the team. He has been in their top four, I believe, five-man rotations in terms of net rating. Julius Randle has been the one constant. It's been him at center for each one of them. And so he's been a very, very productive player. But I think we get a little bit too hung up on starting. And I know we spent a ton of time talking about, who's going to replace Brook Lopez in the starting lineup and all that. I think that total minutes matters a bit more than starting. Because as I said, Luke Walton is kind of following that Golden State Warriors mold where you start more of a standard center, more of the typical center, but then he's going to spend most of the game running small ball. If that's the case, Julius Randle, I think in a typical game, didn't happen against Houston, but in a typical game now with Brook Lopez out, I think Julius is going to get 25 to 30 minutes a night, and I mean, that's perfect. That's right where he should be, and so I don't think it's going to be too huge of a deal. I'm not too worried about him not starting, especially if he's not starting because Kyle Kuzma is the starter. I'm fine with that. You need his floor spacing out there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned about it. Now, if this whole only playing 8 minutes thing becomes a regular thing for Julius Randle, then, yeah, there's going to be some issues. And Julius Randle will not be a happy camper, that's for sure, especially because he's in a contract year. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Okay. The question is, and there's actually two questions from this person, from Ryan Spencer. How would you assess Lonzo's assertiveness in these past 3 games as he seems to have picked up his scoring touch a little bit? So let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll get into the second part, which is who do you see developing into a closer, Brandon Ingram or somebody else? So real quick, what are your thoughts on Lonzo Ball and him picking it up recently?
Okay, well, obviously Lonzo's been much better these past few games, but obviously the big factor to that is just that he's been able to shoot a little bit better. And like we've been saying, his whole thing, whenever Lonzo's struggling, we look at it, he's having a horrible shooting night. So when you're able to score and, your shots are falling in at a little bit more consistent rate, it gives you more confidence, and it kind of gives him the confidence to be more aggressive and more assertive because he's feeling better about himself and about his game. It's really easy, when you're shooting and just nothing is falling, to get frustrated and kind of hang your head down and just kind of get two in your head. So I feel like when Lonzo's able to be a little bit more consistent scoring and when his shots are falling, it's good he's able to have the confidence to just be able to be the Lonzo that we want him to be.
Yeah, definitely. It's a confidence thing with him. And I know tonight against the Houston Rockets, the Rockets announcers were just all over his case about his poor shooting and everything, but he has been looking better. His shot on a pull-up jumper in the last game against the Golden State Warriors, he drove right and actually had really nice shooting for him. He brought the ball pretty much straight up. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see where my shooting form is, instead of bringing the ball to the side of his face and adjusting this way. So it was something where we're seeing these improvements. We're seeing him look more confident in his shot. He's made comments after the games that he's been more confident. So I think this is a very good thing, a very positive thing. And it's also why you don't start calling a young player a bust like a month and a half into the NBA career. I mean, it gets a little bit ridiculous. But we did the same thing with Brandon Ingram. So we're just kind of trapped in a time loop, or it's Groundhog Day or something like that. Second part of that. Who do you see developing into a closer? I think the closer is Brandon Ingram, right? I mean, and maybe that's too simple of an answer, but
I see Brandon Ingram, yes, but I also think Kyle Kuzma. I mean, I know I'm just really high on Kyle Kuzma, obviously, but he's, arguably one of the Lakers' best players right now. He's arguably one of the most consistent players right now. So if it's not Brandon Ingram, I am totally fine with Kuzma having the ball in his hands as the clock's winding down for that last shot. I have no problem with it at all.
I agree with that. I think that right now Ingram's vision is a little bit better, and I like Ingram's ability to beat his man off the dribble. And then even if he gets double teamed, he's so long that allows him to get his shot off, although he does get blocked from time to time. But he's been so good at taking it to the basket. We know that the Lakers see Brandon Ingram as their finisher, as their closer. If you think back to that Philadelphia 76ers game where the Lakers were able to win on that Ingram 3 with it was like 0.8 seconds left, right? They're in transition. The first thing they did is you could see all the guys on the floor were looking for Ingram. It was get the ball to Brandon Ingram. They did. He swung it into the corner to Lonzo. Lonzo drove, kicked it back out to Ingram for the 3. So the team right now recognizes that Ingram is their go-to guy. And is he really that, like, he's not a James Harden level scorer. He's not a Kevin Durant level scorer or anything like that at this stage. But you know what? I think he is their closer. But you made a great point. Kyle Kuzma certainly could stake a claim to that as well. But like we were talking about before with Paul George and LeBron James, it's a good problem to have if you've got two guys that you can go to in clutch situations. So yeah, let's move on to the next one here.
Okay.
I think it's your turn. Your turn to read this one, right?
Okay. This is IshThys. What do you think would be the ideal move to make for the Lakers, assuming the only way to get a star player would be via trade? Should the Lakers make a move or continue to grow this young Lakers team in hopes of following Golden State's footsteps?
Well, I mean, I don't think we can assume that the only way to get a star player is via trade because right now the Lakers are hoping to get a star player via free agency in July. Mm-hmm. That's their plan right now. So kind of tough one as far as the ideal move goes. Do you want to win now and trade away some of these young players, or do you want to continue to watch these young guys grow? I'm of the mindset that with certain young players, you don't trade them. And I'm talking about Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma. I think those 3 are just about untradeable or untouchable, right? You can't part with those guys. They've been too good. And they're the type of players that you need. If it's Julius Randle, well, he's been great. But if you make the decision that you're not going to bring him back, if you decide that you're not going to spend your free agent money on him, your cap space, then maybe you trade him. And you could try to find a win now piece. But you also have to keep in mind, I mean, the Lakers' plan is to have cap space this summer. And if you trade a guy like Randle for another player with long-term salary, then you're going to be eating into your ability to go after LeBron James and Paul George this summer. So I think that if the Lakers are going to make a move, it's not going to be a major move. It's going to be more something where they are keeping their cap space free. Or if they do make a big move, it's to clear up cap space rather than bring in talent at this point. At least that's what I see happening.
Yeah, I agree. And, if we had to make a trade, I think that the best trade would be Paul George for KCP and Brook Lopez because those guys are both on expiring contracts. And then Paul George would replace KCP. And then I think OKC would have an interest in Brook Lopez, probably bring him back next year. You never know. And I would rather get rid of guys with expiring contracts before I would get rid of like Randle and JC, unless we know for sure, like you said, that we're just not going to bring Randle back. I wouldn't really get rid of JC unless, teams really want him at this point. I think we need his scoring. We obviously are a little bit tight at the guard position right now, so I think we need him. But, again, like you said, if we're able to clear up cap space or who else, it's just going to depend on who we're able to get, honestly.
Right. You know what I mean? If you're doing Brook Lopez and KCP, that's about $40 million in outgoing salary. So that's going to be tough for any team to match. But that Anthony Irwin and I talked about this on a recent show where we went over a ton of different trades, KCP and like maybe Nance or something like that.
Yeah.
And then another piece thrown in there. It could potentially work if OKC is inclined to move Paul George, which report came out today that as of right now, they're not. But the trade deadline is still, 6 weeks away, so that could change. As far as this question goes, I mean, this whole win now versus let these young pieces develop, they're in a tough spot, kind of, right? Because you're right, Jordan Clarkson is important for this team right now. He's been in a little bit of a slump lately, but he's important for them. Julius Randle is important for this team. So if you're coming up to the trade deadline, you don't really want to just lose those. Like if you trade those guys away for cap space, what does that leave you with for the rest of the season? You're going to struggle down the stretch because you don't have those guys in place. So the best case scenario for the Lakers is to hang on to those guys and then trade them in the summer once you've got a commitment from LeBron James, from Paul George. You have trades lined up ahead of time. Much, much easier said than done. That's extremely hard to do, but that would be the ideal scenario, would be to play out the rest of the season with the guys that they have and then trade once you know that LeBron's coming, or once you know that Paul George is coming and you need to free up that space. But again, not easy. Let's see. Let's move on. We kind of just answered the next one here.
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
Are we?
Yeah.
And let's still give this person a shout out. Parades on Fig Street 9.
That's awesome.
That's a great username for a Lakers fan. Just asked, are we going to be active come the trade deadline? So yes, the Lakers I think will be active, but I don't know that you're going to see the blockbuster move. Okay, I think they're going to do something. I think that they're going to make some sort of a shrewd move to either free up some space or bring in somebody, right? I mean, we even saw them move, Marcelo Huertas, and they picked up Tyler Ennis just to get a look at a young player. Maybe something along those lines, but I wouldn't expect anything too crazy at the trade deadline. Next one, and we're almost done here. Adrian Flores says, has Ingram and Kuzma showed us enough to not try and sign Paul George? Which we kind of just addressed that one. Well, we'll get into that. Will Ingram be a 20-point scorer in year 3? And who is the ideal center for this Lakers group? P.S. Don't say DeMarcus Cousins. Oops. Oh boy. Okay, so Hannah, let's piece that up. So first of all, Ingram and Kuzma, are they enough to forego going after Paul George?
No, I don't really think anyone's enough to forego going after Paul George. And we all know how much I like Kuzma, but if we can get Paul George, I want Paul George. So definitely no. Obviously, Ingram and Kuzma, have been playing really well this season, and they're going to be a key part of this Lakers team moving forward. But we want them to be, playing with Paul George as well. So they're definitely not enough for us to forego trying to get PG-13 for sure. No way.
Yep, agreed. So the next part, will Ingram be a 20-point scorer in year 3? I mean, Magic Johnson was saying Ingram was going to average 20 points this season. Hasn't happened. Do you think it's realistic to think of him as a potential 20-point scorer in year 3? And I'm looking up his scoring average right now. I know he was at 16 point something last time.
Yeah, he's at 16.3 right now. So I definitely think it's possible for sure in year 3. I mean, he's already up. I don't remember exactly what it was last season, but I'm sure it's already definitely a big jump up from last season. So I think he's at 16.3 points this season. Just jump him up another 4 points. I think he could definitely be a 20-point scorer next season for sure.
Right, and I think it depends on the personnel. If you have Paul George and LeBron James, then no, Brandon Ingram is probably not going to score 20 points per game. But if you don't get those guys, then sure, why not? I mean, if Brandon Ingram gets his three-pointer falling a little bit more regularly, if he can hit from the free throw line a little bit, right? I mean, if he brings those up, his three-point shooting, say he brings that up 3%, 4%, right? If he gets a little bit better from downtown, if he hits 1 or 2 more free throws per game, that's it. There's your 20 points right there. So, yes, I could see him as a 20-point per game scorer. I don't think he's a natural scorer like some guys are, like Kyle Kuzma, but he could definitely get there. Last one, who is the ideal for the center for this Lakers group? And don't say DeMarcus Cousins. I think I'm going to say DeMarcus Cousins.
I was just going to say that too. I was going to say, I'm sorry, Adrian, but it's DeMarcus Cousins. Could you imagine this team with a guy like DeMarcus Cousins? It would be pretty exciting to watch. He's just kind of like that little piece that we really need. I think we just need DeMarcus Cousins. And, he's the only center that I really want to go after personally.
I get the hesitation, though, because of Cousins' personality.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Because of those issues. And so I understand that. Maybe you don't want that personality, that temperament around your young players. So I get why there'd be some hesitation there. So if not DeMarcus Cousins, then, someone like DeMarcus Cousins. I think you could actually make a case for DeAndre Jordan, who's going to be a free agent, or most likely will be a free agent, just because I'm having visions going through my head of Lonzo Ball tossing lobs to DeAndre Jordan. And
that would be exciting. That would be good.
Especially if you have Kuzma as your 4, because you still have enough shooting out there. But he's on the older end, and his game is so athleticism-based that worries me a little bit. So maybe DeAndre Jordan? I don't know. Is there anybody else out there that you think would be an ideal? I'm thinking like a Cousins, a Marc Gasol would be good, but Gasol's a little bit up there in years. Anybody else?
I honestly don't even see, if it's not DeMarcus Cousins, and I only think the Lakers are caring about LeBron James, Paul George, and DeMarcus Cousins as like the big guys right now. I think DeAndre Jordan would be interesting. I don't know necessarily if he would totally be the perfect fit. I don't think he necessarily would be. I'm sorry, Adrian, but I think it's DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to say that, even though he said don't say it. It just kind of it is. Last one, a little bit of a crazy trade here. That is not, well, mathematically it's not possible. But the question here from Laker Lover 30 says, Brook to Golden State for their first. Is that possible? So Brook Lopez to the Golden State Warriors for their first round pick. I like the thinking, trading a veteran player, a guy who's on an expiring contract who maybe doesn't have a long-term future with the team. We don't know. They may be planning on keeping him around, and trying to get a asset out of him, right? A first-round pick, because you can do a lot of things with that. You can pick somebody in the draft. You can use it as a trade chip. Maybe use it to try to help convince someone to take Luol Deng's contract. So if you can do something like that, maybe not such a bad idea. But Brook Lopez also makes $20 million, $22 million, I think, last I looked. So that's a ton of salary to absorb. The Lakers would definitely have to take back salary in order to do that. And the Lakers can't take back any salary that goes beyond this year. So they'd have to take back expiring contracts. Otherwise, it kills their plan of going after two max free agents. So, all that being said, really, really, really difficult to do. The Golden State Warriors certainly can't absorb Brook Lopez's salary. I don't know. Hannah, I don't think Brook to the Golden State Warriors works. Any other teams where you think maybe it would make sense, or do you think that Brook Lopez is just sticking with the team for the rest of the year?
I think he's probably going to stick with the team for the rest of the year, honestly. But, I don't even think Golden State would be interested in him in the first place. Like you kind of mentioned earlier in this episode, Golden State, they don't really play their centers that much anyway. They like to play that small ball. So I don't even know why they'd really be interested in bringing a guy like Brook Lopez over to their team. But, yeah, I don't think so. I think Brook's just going to be with us for the rest of the season.
and here's the other thing. Brook Lopez, I've mentioned this before, he is a huge fan of Disneyland.
Yes.
The guy spent, I want to say it was 3 of his first 4 or 5 days when he got into town after being traded here at Disneyland.
Wow, that makes me like him a little more. I love Disneyland.
Yeah, Disneyland is awesome. But I'm saying it's Christmas time right now. We're wearing our Christmas hats. Yeah. And you're going to take Disneyland away from Brook Lopez?
Right? Oh, my gosh. What are you, the Grinch?
Yeah, I don't think you can do that, right? Karma would come back to bite you in the butt if you did that. So I don't think that they're going to trade Brook Lopez. I think the cap reasons have a lot more than any problems with karma or anything like that, or robbing Brook Lopez of Disneyland. But still, I just don't see it happening. And Brook Lopez should feel secure in getting his Disneyland season pass, although he may end up elsewhere next summer, but for right now, I think he's going to stay a Laker.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so I think we got through them all. We got through all of these comments. Thank you to everybody who sent in these comments for our special Christmas edition mailbag. We had a lot of fun discussing them. Hannah, thanks for coming on and joining me and wearing a Santa hat for a whole episode. Of
course, no, you gave me the perfect reason to be able to wear my Santa hat for the first time this holiday season. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me. I always have fun. And again, these questions were really great. So thank you guys so much for sending us your questions. We really appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Thank you to all of our listeners and followers for sending in these questions. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, there won't be a show coming up on Monday because Monday is Christmas. So hopefully everybody's spending time with family and all that kind of stuff. I'm aiming for next Thursday. So there'll be a 1 week break. That's when we'll have our next show. Don't forget, head over to MeUndies. Go to MeUndies.com/LakersNation. Get 20% off your order. Again, highly, highly recommend them. And of course, don't forget to go to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to our show. Guest today is Hannah Kulik. If you want to follow her on Twitter, you can find her at Hannah_Kulik. And my Twitter handle is at Trevor_Lane. So we were on the same wavelength there when we were creating our Twitter handles. Hannah, any parting thoughts, or are we good to get out of here?
You know what? All I can say is we took Golden State to 2 times overtime and we lost it. Hopefully this Friday we're able to pull away with the win. It would be pretty exciting to say that we beat Houston Rockets and then came back and beat the Golden State Warriors, but you never know. It could be a Christmas miracle. That
would be awesome. I would love it. Before we get out of here, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate. We hope that you have a good one. That's going to about do it for today. This has been the Lakers Nation podcast. Head to LakersNation.com for all the latest Lakers news. See ya.